Hey, this is Paul from Les Marks Guitars and welcome back. Now this is video number 4 in a series I'm doing on how to build a scarf joint guitar neck. This is the neck that we've been building. Now if you want to see how we got to this point, go ahead and visit 1, 2, and 3 and that'll catch you up. Now this neck right here, let me explain a little bit about this neck. It's not a priority. This is a demo neck for one of my demo guitars. Customers' guitars come first. So you might see me in a different shirt in the videos every once in a while, and that's because I do this as I can, as time allows me. The priorities are the customers. But I want to get video content out for everybody, so I try to plug at this thing as much as I can. So today I got a little free time and I'm going to try to do what I can on this, okay? So what it needs is, it needs side dots in it, it needs fret work, it needs to be thinned out in the headstock, the body of the neck needs to be thinned out and all that good stuff. And it needs to have the contour carved out of it. Not sure if I'll get to that point because I do have one right here that I'm carving, and that's got to get out of the way before I can do this one. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, these guitars, this work here is priority, this is not. So more than likely that will get done, and this may take a back burner again, but I'll still continue to get the footage for you. Anyway, I guess that's all I can say about it for right now. Let's just go ahead and get started on this. All right, pretty simple, just drilling holes. Well, the battery died on my mic, so I've already started. I've got 4 of them in already, so I'm kind of starting over the video. This is what I'm putting in it. This is some plastic material for dots, and I do these on standard models, and this is a standard model neck. If it's a special or custom, I'll go ahead and use mother of pearl, depending on what neck material, what color will be. So I just put a little bit of super glue inside the holes. Press this rod in and clip it off. Alright. Clip that off. Do this other one. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Here we go. Wipe the glue off. Now some of these are sticking up proud. I'm going to basically file these down later. You know, it'll be nice and smooth with the side. Pretty much does it right here. And there's going to be quite a bit of sanding after this is done anyway, so, but it's nice and flush. What we're going to do next is we're going to put frets in this fingerboard. And I've got the wire right here that I'm going to use. This is a piece of stainless steel, and it's already radiused. It comes that way from LMII. I get some of my wire from LMII, and I got some from StewMac and other places. Most other places it's a straight piece, and I have to bend it. This is already bent, but it's not bent to the radius I need. So I still put it in my fret bender, and I still run it through, and it ends up being what I want it to be. I think they have it at 14 or 16 maybe. So I do mine at 12. I radius my fingerboards at 12. So I still run it through and I get the 12 that I need from this. And this is just a real simple little jig you can make. This it's made out of bolts, nuts, washers, and you can catch stuff on it like this online everywhere. There's a lot of people making these things. Some people put a little crank handle on here. I don't. I just take the wire and I run it through here, and I push it by hand, and I just do it a couple times and it's set. So I'm not going to show you that. That's pretty basic. But what I am going to show you is I'm going to take this out of this radius to exactly 12 inches like I want. You can see there it's perfect. And the reason why I radius exact instead of over radiusing a little bit like you've seen in some fretting tutorials, I glue these in. And stainless steel, if you overbend it a little bit and you press it in, stainless steel wants to spring back and it could lift. So I never want it to lift, although I do glue them. So since I do glue them in, I make sure that the radius is exact. And I press mine in, I don't hammer in. I used to hammer frets in, but I've stopped doing that years ago, and I press them in. I use an old drill press as an arbor press, and it works great. So the first thing I'm going to do here is, well, first thing you do is bend it, and it's set. And then I'm going to start sizing up the pieces and cutting them, and I'm going to put them in this little block right here. It's numbered, and each piece is going to be put into here, and it's going to be cut to the length I need. Then I'm going to trim away a little bit of the tang. I want to get rid of a little bit of tang, kind of like you're doing a bound fingerboard. Although this is not a bound fingerboard, I want this little space at the end to be open underneath the fret. So the fret tang will be missing in that area. I'm going to fill this with a little bit of sawdust and glue. And it's going to leave a nice clean look. And you're not going to have those fret tangs sticking out the sides, you know, and cutting into your hand. Alright, so what I'm going to do is line this first one up. I'm going to leave a little bit of overhang on it. Just a little bit. And I'm going to try to, you know, save on this wire as much as I can. I want to get a whole fingerboard of frets with this one piece. So I'm overhanging just a little bit. I'm going to cut the other end. It's just a little bit. This wire from LMII seems to have just a little bit extra anyways. It's really good stuff, and they give you quite a bit to do one fingerboard. So there's usually not a problem with that. Some of the stuff from other places, they give you just barely enough, in my opinion. I like to leave a little bit overhang. I need something to work with here. So I'm going to press on with this a little bit and we'll go on to the next step. Stainless steel is some pretty hard stuff. So I'm just going along like that, and I'm going to pull them out and put them in this block right here. Now that we have the frets cut to size, length I should say, and they're stacked up in this holder, we can go ahead and nip the tangs. Now there's still a little bit left over. This is some probably enough to do. I don't know if we had 24 frets on this. We'd have enough to do 2 more frets. This is a 22 fret fingerboard. Now what we do is we're going to nip the tangs. Now normally if they were nickel silver, I would use this tool right here. This is a nipper, this tang nipper. So you put the fret wire inside like this here, and it nips the piece off. But these won't work on this stainless steel. It's just too hard. So I made this little jig right here years ago. Now it's just some melamine. It's really basic. It does take a little bit of time to use, but it was something that worked for me way back when I first started doing this. I've had this thing forever. But what happens is, this is the way this thing works. I've already done a couple wires already. I'm up to number 3. What I'll do is I'll take the wire and I'll put it at the 3rd position, use a Sharpie, and don't know if you can get this in the picture. But anyway, I'll mark it. I'll mark it where I want to cut it. So for this one here, I'm going to go and mark this so that there's probably about, I don't know, maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch that I want to have from the end. So I'll cut off so it's about 1/8 of an inch. Now this tool right here has a slot on this top piece right here, and it's a little clamp. Okay, so there's a slot underneath this that coincides with the tang on this. So I'll put it in here, and the bottom has a groove in it that's the shape of the crown. So it kind of hugs this thing. You put it in there, and it's hard to do by hand like this, but you put it in there, and I'll run it up until it hit my mark that I put on here from the Sharpie. Okay, and then I clamp it down with these wing nuts, and then when I run this file across it, it's got a flat edge right here. There's no coarseness to this end, and I'll just run it along this, and I'll flatten it out until that tang disappears. Okay, and you'll know you're there because you'll feel it. So I keep it in this vise to hold it, and I just run along it and take that tang off. Oh, it moved on me. Let me get that back out where it belongs. That's why it's better to do it in the vise. And it really does make short order of it, and it doesn't take that long. And I used to do the same thing with the nickel silver frets, but now I've got that nipper, and it works pretty good for those. So just kind of push it out either way, and you can see it leaves that little cutaway, that tang. I don't know if that's focusing or not. Now flip it around, put it back in the other way, up to the other mark I put on there, and I'll take the other side off. It takes a little time, but still, it's good results. It's pretty accurate, and it gets rid of that tang for me. I'm able to have a nice clean look. Okay, so here it is cut, third position. I'll put that on there so you can see it. Okay, and I'm going to keep going along the rest of the fingerboard. I won't bore you with that because it is a kind of a slow process. We'll pick it up at the end when these things are, actually when these things are ready to be glued in. We'll go to that step next. Okay, here's my fret press. It's just an old drill press. I've got my 12-inch radius caul chucked up into it. There's no power on this thing. It's not powered at all, so you don't have to worry about anything happening. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and fret this now. I'm just going to line these up where they belong and start pressing them in. I'm just going to clean these frets up before we go to the next step. I want to get the burrs off it. They're kind of sharp, you know, handle this thing, you can cut yourself. So, and I've got this file right here, and I'm going to hit the side of them. My next step is to take some of this material out from the back side of this neck and make this taper. So I've made my measurements. You can see a line going across here. There's several lines, different reference lines for different things. This line right here is where the heel of the body is, and this is going on a 613 CS, which is an artisan, and this line represents where the actual heel of the neck will end, and that's where it'll start curving down. So because of the curve, I want to do that later. I've set a reference mark right here to stop where the cutter stops. This is where I want the cutter to stop. Same on the other side. So I've got a line here. That's where I want the cutter to stop. This is where it starts curving down. You can see right here. This is the curve. So all I'm going to do is, and I got it propped up. So I got it propped up on a wedge right here. And it's really the basic thing. The tape is there just so I can, you know, keep it where I want it. I've got it leveled out to where it's taking an exact straight cut right across here. And I'm just going to move back and forth on this cutter. I'm going to lower it a little bit each pass until I reach this line. Okay, and then there's going to be, you know, a chunk of wood's going to have to come out over here, and a little chunk's going to have to come out over here, but I'll do that with the sander. So now I'm going to use my flat sander. It's in this orientation. I got the table flipped up. I've got this little attachment that's put inside of it, and it raises and lowers this platform with the screw on the bottom right here. I attach a template for pickup cavity routing, and it's a nice thick piece, and it overhangs the fingerboard so it doesn't get hung up on the platform. So I'm just going to go ahead and just hit it a few times and get it to the right thickness I need. Also, what it's going to do, because of the diameter of this this pin, this sanding disc or wheel, whatever you want to call it, it's going to create my volute, the curve for my volute on the back side of my headstock. Okay, we're at the point now where we can start carving the back of this neck, this contour. So I've got a series of lines on here. There's one down here on the side, and hopefully you can see that. I think you can. And then there's a line right here. Okay, there's one on the other side down on the side here, and there's one right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these lines. I'm going to carve a wedge. I'm going to carve a flat spot all the way down this neck so that that line and that line meet up. Okay, a nice flat surface right here. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to make a flat surface over here. After those are done, there'll end up being another point right here, just like there is in this corner. There'll be like another corner here, another corner here. Same thing on the other sides, kind of like, you know, hexagonal kind of thing. And then I'll carve those. This one. I'll carve this part, and this part. I'll take some of that corner out, and eventually it's going to start getting round. But it's going to have flat spots all the way around. When I get to a certain point, then I'm going to round it out. And when I do, I'm not going to touch this center line. I'm going to leave the center line alone because it's at the thickness I want. It's actually a little thicker than I want, but by the time I'm done sanding and everything, it's going to come down to the thickness that I want at the 1st fret and the 12th fret. So that's it. And then after that, it's just some fine sanding and, you know, getting the contours in this area here and here, up here, just kind of blending in the headstock and the heel. Here we go. Here you can see the cuts I've done already on both sides, and now it's time to take off some of this and some of this, and over here and over here. Now that I got all the hard edges off, I'm going to go ahead and start rounding. And I'm going to switch off to this stick. This is a straight stick. Got a nice flat surface on it. I've got 180 grit on this side and 120 on this side. Okay, I'm going to use this to sand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it with a pencil so I can see where the high spots and low spots are as I'm sanding. And I'm going to continue to shape with this until I get the shape I need. And you know, this pencil just helps me, like I said, to seal the high and low spots. So I'm still staying away from the middle. And I know I had a little bit of a hump in the middle right there. And you take it like this and go in between the volute and the heel, the curve of the heel. Like I said, I want to leave the middle alone for right now. It won't take much to get that middle down. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm starting to come around to the center now. I'm going to go over that line. I'm going to bring everything in nice and flat. I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and I'm going to start carving in this area for the heel and for the volute. So I drew in a rough shape that I want for the back of the headstock where the volute is, and I'm going to start taking material off over here. Now this area is kind of, you got to kind of go slow here because it can splinter because of the way you're going against the grain here. You can take chunks out. So you just kind of go slow. This is probably gonna, yeah, it's making the camera vibrate. But anyways, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around with this thing like this here, this file. I'll switch over to this file right here, which takes a pretty aggressive cut, and but it leaves a smoother finish. And I'll shape this all around. I'll show you when it's done. See, at this point, I'm going to start taking some sandpaper. Got some 80 grit. It's a small piece here. And I'm going to start defining. See, there's a little chip right there. Good thing I'm going to take a little bit off the back here. But I'm going to start defining this volute by hand. Got a very squeaky bench, guys. Sorry. The last thing that I do with the 80 grit, I cut a strip like this. And I shoe shine it. normally drill the tuner holes prior to me thinning out the headstock and put it in the thickness sander, but I got a little ahead of myself. Anyway, let's just do it now. All of my headstocks have this step down on the top, like you see here. And I'm going to establish that on this neck with this template right here. Got my template on there and a router bit. Okay, I'm going to call it quits for now. I think we've done enough so far, and I'll have enough stuff to do on its neck to make one more video. I want to tighten up this heel area and the ends over here, even a little bit over here, but mostly in the ends. I don't like the way that feels when it transitions up. It's a little too chunky on them corners. I'm going to take care of that. Same thing with the volute. I want to take some of that material out. It's a little too chunky there. Of course, I need some fine sanding. Before I do take care of this transition, I am going to thin this heel out a little bit. It's about 1/8 of an inch too thick right now. I did leave enough room over here for that. So we'll thin that out a little bit, and then we'll take care of this area. And we'll also get into doing some fret work. We'll clean the fingerboard up and all that stuff. We'll do some fine sanding, and this thing will be done. So if you liked everything you saw here today, go ahead and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you next time here at Les Bronx Guitars.